Have you ever wondered, is there a difference between a vegan, vegetarian, or a plant-based diet? What does that mean? Well, I'm here to give you those answers. I get tons of questions as a plant-based physician. Well, what about vegan? What's vegetarian? Is, fish meat? All these different things. Well, let's put the record straight. What is a vegan diet versus a vegetarian diet versus a plant-based diet? And then I'd say even a whole food plant-based diet. So first of all, vegan would require you to move into eating no animal products because of ethical reasons. So that could be animal welfare, it could be due to, let's say, you worry about the world health, and climate change. So it doesn't mean that you eat healthy, it just means you don't consume anything that had a face or came from a face. So that could be Oreos, it could be literally, soda, any of the processed stuff that you see that's labeled vegan, but it's not exactly healthy. So vegan refers to the ethical component. Vegetarian might be in the similar line of vegan, but they still consume dairy products and sometimes eggs. You may have heard of pescatarian, that's like a vegetarian who also eats fish. So they don't eat animal products like meat or flesh, but they do consume the byproducts of animals, such as the dairy and the eggs. Now, is one healthier than the other? That's hard to say. Depends on how healthy a vegan diet is versus a vegetarian diet. But as you move along the scale, removing more and more of those animal either products, the flesh, meaning meat, chicken, which is poultry, pork, red meat or fish, and you stop the eggs, the cheese, the dairy products, you get healthier and healthier. If you also avoid things like the processed foods. So now what is a plant-based diet versus a whole food plant-based diet? So plant-based diet just means, most of those people have moved to a plant-based diet for health reasons, but they still, on a plant-based diet, maybe they still eat like Beyond Burgers or they eat Impossible Burgers, which are still processed foods. These foods are not healthy for you, but they're transitional foods that sometimes we may use if someone is really struggling. Now, what is a whole food plant-based diet? Whole food plant-based diet is one that's consuming as close to the whole food as possible. So that'd be fruits, vegetables, beans, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. So what does that mean? That means that you eat as many whole fruits, you eat apple instead of like applesauce, which is fine. Or let's say you eat a whole grain like steel cut oats or groat oats instead of instant oatmeal. You eat the whole wheat instead of maybe whole wheat bread. Maybe even closer than whole wheat bread to the whole would be like a sprouted grain bread. So that's kind of the difference. Now some people also, when they do a whole food plant-based diet, they remove oil, which is a processed food. It's pure fat, it's 120 calories per tablespoon, not exactly a health food. Now is olive oil healthier than butter? Yes, but still, your body can extract the fats from the whole food, like avocados and certain nuts. So it's better to not consume oil if you can. The other thing that people do is they remove salt and added sugars. So you may hear an SOS-free diet, which means no salt, no oil or sugar. That would be the closest to a whole food plant-based diet as you can. One thing I do want to caution, however, you do want to consume a B12 supplement. B12 is actually made by bacteria. It's not made by an animal, it's not made by any type of plant. The bacteria live in the soil and the water, and when you're not consuming animal flesh, because B12 is also stored in animal flesh, you may get low. There are fortified foods in the United States, but some places around the world, they don't fortify foods with B12. So you do want to take a supplement anywhere between 500 to 1,000 micrograms daily. You can take a 2,500 microgram or so weekly. It depends on your absorption. I tend to try to get my patients to do daily absorption. I think they have a better, or daily intake. I think that's a better absorption in the long term. And then, you know, you can have your B12 measured. There's a few different ways to do that. You can definitely measure the B12, the serum, but it's not exactly, I would say, the most accurate picture of your B12 that's in your body. So I would also measure two other things called homocysteine and methylmalonic acid. And those would be the one supplement I would definitely consider using, or you would just have to use if you're doing a whole food plant-based diet and not consuming any fortified foods. One other one would be D3. Most of us walking around are vitamin D3 deficient. I try to get my patients closer to around 70 is the blood level that you want to be measuring. There's some really huge benefits to having the proper vitamin D level. So we can save that for another video, but I hope you found that helpful. So now you know what's the difference between a vegan, vegetarian, plant-based, and a whole food plant-based diet.